What's going on, Niner fans? How are we doing? We are live. It is Wednesday afternoon. No, it's Thursday afternoon. I don't even know what day it is anymore. It's Thursday. It's been a long week already. It's Thursday. We got some news. Kyle Shanahan, NFL Combine. It never happens. We're going to talk about Kyle Shanahan. There's some Deebo Samuel news out there. According to Jeremy Fowler, we're going to talk about that. Some Brandon Ayuk news today that dropped. Little report from Tim Kawakami and all the NFL 49er insiders. They've been busy keeping us up with all these rumors and news. And again, it's smoke season, so you take a lot of things with the grain of salt. But today, there's some news out there about Kyle Shanahan, 49ers head coach. Let's talk about it. So he's likely to be in attendance at the NFL Combine. I know it's like, oh, head coach at the NFL Combine. Most of the coaches don't go. And Kyle Shanahan specifically doesn't go to the NFL Combine. Like he's not a combine guy. But you know what? This tells me a lot. The 49ers, they got a lot of pressure. They had a 6-win season, right? There's a lot of money on the board. The team is probably like, look, man, we need you to get in there and go figure out what we're going to do with this 11th pick. Maybe are they going to trade? I don't know. Now, this just tells me that the 49ers are like, look, we got to fix our ways. Whatever we've been doing in the past, it has not been working. It hasn't been working. So the 49ers are like, hey, we got Kyle Shanahan. We got John Lynch at the Combine. They're going to really scout and make sure they get a good look at these candidates, at not just the 11th pick, but the whole draft process. The 49ers need to make sure they turn things around. So Kyle Shanahan, again, is likely to be at the NFL Combine. Now, it's not confirmed 100%, but, I mean, it's pretty much probably going to happen, according to what Matt Barrows and Tim Kawakami are saying. So that's a nice little nugget of information because, again, the 49ers need to turn it around. They need to figure out how are they going to get the Niners better again. And with your head coach having some input, instead of just looking at film, he's got to talk to these guys. He's got to see their combine results. This is big for Kyle Shanahan being at the NFL Combine. Like, he's the guy. He's the leader. He's the coach, right? This also says that he's taking accountability, that he knows Niners have not been good last year. It was a bad season, and they got to fix it. And it starts with the head coach. So this, to me, is Kyle Shanahan giving taking a little bit of accountability to say, hey, I got to be there. We got to make this right. And there probably is some pressure from upstairs and say, hey, look, get your ass to the Combine. Let's figure out who we're going to draft. So they're getting serious, and I like that. The Niners are serious this offseason. It's not just the Combine. They brought back Salah. They got rid of Brian Schneider. They got rid of Nick Sorensen. They're getting rid of Brandon Staley. They're getting rid of Ronnie Bell. Like, they've gotten rid of people and players and coaches that didn't help them win games. So now they're going to have their head coach go to the Combine. I like it. I love it. I love it. I absolutely love this because it can set up trades. You can start talking with other teams, behind the closed doors. There's a lot of things that happen at the Combine that goes unsaid. So you need to have all hands on deck. And I'm sure Kyle's going to bring some of his coaches along with him. We know John Lynch is going to be there. He's always at the Combine. So we get to hear from John Lynch himself, and it's good. So, Peter Parker says, Kyle is growing up in front of our eyes. It's good to see a little bit of growth from Kyle Shanahan. It's a little bit of growth. You got to give him some credit. So, and Deebo Samuel, let's talk about that. That's the other news of the day. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN just reported that Deebo Samuel is reportedly being sought after from several teams. There's several teams looking after Deebo, and they've already had some preliminary talks with other teams. The 49ers, his agent, and Deebo Samuel about other teams. So there's preliminary talks there. It does seem like there's interest in Deebo. Now, a lot of people are saying they're not going to get anything, not going to get much, but there is some talks. You never know. He might be included in a draft day trade. Who knows? But this is important for Kyle Shanahan going to the Combine and having Deebo Samuel already gauging interest. This is good because maybe you could say, hey, we're going to include you in a trade in the draft, and we can move here and get this guy. So all of this kind of correlates together. I think it's, very good. And Tim Kawakami earlier today, he did an article, SF Standard. And again, a lot of this stuff you take with the greatest salt, but he says 49ers were really upset about how they went about last year, and they're angry and they want to move forward. And there's just a lot of, there was a lot of I wouldn't say animosity, but there's just they want to make sure they don't make bad decisions. Like, they were upset about their poor decisions they've made over the last years. Hargrave, right? They went and gave him a lot of money and it didn't work out. Brandon Ayuk, like the whole negotiation and the way that worked out. Like they were mad about how that whole situation panned out. And the 49ers want to be smarter this year. And if you look at the offseason, so far they're smarter, right? Again, they've brought in the right coaches so far. They've got rid of the coaches that people said shouldn't have been on the staff. So as of right now, the 49ers seem to be making the right decisions. And it seems like the 49ers are like, yeah, look, we've messed up. We've made some poor decisions in the past. And that's probably what ended up, putting us in this position where we were a 6-win team. So I feel like the 49ers learned a lot. They've reflected a lot. They've had an extra month to kind of reflect. Last couple of years, they've been going deep into the playoffs, February, Super Bowl, NFC Championship, et cetera, et cetera. This time, their season ended in January. You had a whole month to just sit there and reflect. That's a lot to think about as a GM, as a coach, as players, as an organization. So I think they've really done a lot of looking in the mirror and saying, oh, we need to change this. So good stuff, What happened to the DB coach, D'Angelo Hall? They didn't hire him. They hired Ray Brown. Let me tell you who Ray Brown is. Ray Brown is the defensive backs coach. He's from Boston College, and that's who they hired as their new secondary coach, new DB coach. I think it was probably between D'Angelo Hall and Ray Brown, but it looks like Ray Brown was the choice. He's a guy that's coached a lot in college, and maybe he has a little bit more coaching history than D'Angelo Hall, who's new, into the coaching rankings. He was in Carolina for a few years, but they interviewed him. Maybe down the line, that's a guy that the 49ers call back and say, hey, look, we want you on our staff. But as of now, it was Ray Brown who they hired as their DB coach, and I guess they chose him over D'Angelo Hall. But again, they haven't finalized. They haven't announced all their coaching hires. We may see some more in the next couple of days. So we'll see. Thoughts on Zach Martin retiring? Great player, heck of a career. Shout out to him. Sometimes you just got to hang it up. And just like John Feliciano today, he knew it was time to go. Your body sometimes just can't go through a full season. We talked about it this morning, right? Feliciano, his knee gave out on him, and he just couldn't do it. And he just knew it's the smart decision. Let's put an end to it. And, he had a great career. And Zach Martin, he played a fantastic career. He was a superstar offensive lineman. But there comes a point where you just can't put yourself through it, especially in the offensive line. The trenches is tough, man. The trenches are so intense, and these football players go through a lot in any position. But O-line, man, they're just getting thrown around. They're getting hurt. After a while, it takes a toll. So a guy like Zach Martin, commend him. Heck of a career, and good luck to him. Just like Feliciano, right? He had a pretty solid career, and as an offensive lineman, you take an absolute beating. So Zach Martin, Feliciano, kudos to them for great careers. So, let's see. Let's take a look at some of these questions. How's everybody doing? How we feel? We good? I just came right in and started spitting. My man Rob says, is Robert Salah going to? That's what they expect. They haven't made an official announcement, but I would assume Kyle Shanahan's there. He's going to take Robert Salah with them, and they're going to talk to the media because we haven't even had an introductory or a reintroduction press conference for Salah. So I would say Lynch, Robert, Kyle going to be there. I don't know. That's just me purely speculating, but I would expect Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, and Salah to be there. So we'll see. Again, the Niners, from all these reports, are tired of what happened last season. They're pissed off. They're upset. They're hungry. They want to get better. And again, there was a report earlier today that said, Niners were mad at the way the Brandon Ayuk situation fell through. And I think, again, they looked back at last season and they probably were embarrassed how everything played out. I think the Niners were probably more embarrassed at how they just handled last season because it was an absolute embarrassment as a fan watching it. You had the BA squabble, you couldn't get that situated. And then all of a sudden, here comes Christian McCaffrey. You pay him like nothing, and you're still trying to figure out Brandon Ayuk. And then boom, here comes Trent Williams. I'm not going to play either until you pay my ass. And it was like, wow, what the hell is going on with this team? And then the team was injured, and then they started bad, and then they just couldn't win games. And it just domino effect. But I think it started from the offseason. And I think the Niners, looking back, were like, yeah, we should have changed the way we did things. And that's kind of how I feel like they're doing right now. I feel like they're probably just trying to right their wrongs and say, hey, we can't do what we did last year, because what we did last year did not get us victories, did not attain us to the Super Bowl. It didn't get us to the playoffs. It didn't allow us to achieve our goals. So I feel like 49ers flip the switch and they're changing their ways. I would hope so. So he's Bobby. My man says he didn't say Robert. I know. I changed it to Robert. He says he's Bobby this time. Okay, Bobby Salah. I like Bobby. Bobby's good. Robert, Bobby, whatever. Is Zach Martin the Trent Williams for guards of this era? You could probably say that. I mean, Zach Martin was probably one of the better guards in the last 2 decades. So I would say, I mean, he was a stud, man. Probably. It's going to be crazy when Trent hangs it up one day. I hope he doesn't. He's in Cabo with George and the boys, Ricky Pearsall, Brock Purdy, Trent Williams, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, the Cabo clique. Trent Taylor. Trent Taylor's always going to have a job on this team, whether it's practice squad or not. Man, that Cabo clique linking up in Cabo. You can really see who's important on this team. Trent Hagen with all the boys. You got to love it. And Trent Williams has always been part of the Cabo crew. So my man says Combine Kyle is going to be a vibe. It's going to be a vibe. Chris says a lot of people are speaking about Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, and Joey Bosa. Great in their own right. But why isn't anyone speaking about Trey Hendrickson? Good question. I think because the Bengals have made it clear that they want to bring back Trey Hendrickson, that they're probably not going to get rid of Trey. Now, I think also because Trey Hendrickson doesn't have the name recognition of a Joey Bosa, Myles Garrett, and Max Crosby. You're not saying that Trey Hendrickson is bad at all. He is a fantastic player. He's probably better than Joey Bosa at this point because Joey Bosa is older. He's been hurt. His contract's crazy. I think Trey Hendrickson, if you ask me, he's probably, number 3 on that list. You got Myles Garrett. You got Max Crosby. To me, I got Trey Hendrickson and then Joey Bosa. But I feel like because I think the Bengals are probably not going to allow Hendrickson to leave. I don't think so. I think they're going to make it a priority to get him back, although they do have to get Jamar Chase a bag, probably $40 million. They do have to pay T. Higgins. They're going to, franchise tag him. So they got a lot of money to spend on a few guys. I don't know. So maybe Trey Hendrickson will be a guy that leaves the Bengals, but I think the reason is because I think the Bengals are going to try to keep him. But if I had to tell you about those edge rushers that have been linked or rumored to the 49ers, Trey Hendrickson's dog. He better enjoy Bosa, to be my opinion. But Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa playing together on the same team would actually hit like crack. Like just seeing that, like, even though Joey's washed up, right? And he's probably a shell of what he was in his prime. And he's still a good player, but he's not going to give you what he gave you 4 years ago, right? But just to see 2 Bosas on the field, that sells tickets. Like that, you can't sit there and tell me that you would not be like, oh, okay, that's pretty dope. You see Bosa and Bosa on 2 sides of the defensive line. It's a pretty cool sight. I think that's the allure of having it now. Would Joey Bosa be able to put up that many stats with the 9? I don't know. But maybe playing next to his brother, it would bring out the best of him, competitive fuel. And he's, I got to be better than Nick. It would be pretty cool. My man C-Max says, how do I feel about Ray Brown? Yeah, let me tell you about Ray Brown. Let me tell you, a lot of people have been asking me about Ray Brown. He's the defensive backs coach. He had a pretty illustrious college coaching career, and now he is coaching the 49ers. As we know, last week, according to CBS, they hired him instead of D'Angelo Hall, and we'll see. He's got a good coaching resume, and I think that he could be a good part of Robert Saleh's staff. And, hey, if he ever becomes a defensive coordinator, you get 2 comp picks out of Ray Brown. So we'll see. Good stuff. My man, Fantasy Football Show. We got Smitty. We got C-Mac in the building. Who won the Super Bowl? Unfortunately, the Eagles. But, hey, Chiefs didn't win. So we'll see. Take a look at a couple more questions here. Brunio says, I would be shocked if Joey Bosa isn't a 49er. I wouldn't want to pay him $10 million because of the injury history. Yeah, if you can get him for cheaper than 10, I probably would be off the roof going for Joey Bosa. But I don't know. Just because of his name, he probably commands $10 million. But would you want to throw $10 million to Joey Bosa with his injury history? I don't know. I mean, you paid some other guys a lot of money over the last couple of years. So Niners, they might be tempted. But again, based on what we're talking about today, 49ers are trying to do smart business. They're trying to be smart this year. They're not trying to go and do overspending, spend money on guys that aren't going to help them. So I feel like the 49ers are really trying to right the wrong. So I don't know if Joey Bosa fits in to their plan this year because of the fact of they've paid some guys like Hargrave, right? Like what we just mentioned earlier is 49ers are upset about how they went about their business over the last couple of years. And a prime example of that is Javon Hargrave. Good name, great player, but at the point when they signed him, it was an overpay. They got him in during that free agency year, and it was like, holy moly, what kind of contract is it? And he hasn't been able to live up to it, injuries and et cetera, et cetera. So I feel like the 49ers don't want to overpay for a guy that's past their prime. So that's the one reason I would say they're probably not going to get Joey Bosa. Now, would it be cool to get Myles Garrett and Max Crosby? Absolutely. But can they afford it? Can they trade up enough assets? Probably not for Myles Garrett. And then they'd have to pay him. I know the salary cap is increased, but you got Brock Purdy who's going to get extended, whether you like it or not. You got George Kittle who needs an extension. You got Dre Greenlaw who they'll probably be able to extend now with a little bit more cap space added to the team. So a lot of people you got to pay. I don't know if you can give Myles Garrett the Nick Bosa contract, or probably more than Nick Bosa, plus Brock Purdy, plus everybody else you have on the roster. So it may not be realistic. Now, Max Crosby, same thing. You may be able to swing a deal with the draft picks and stuff, but do the Raiders want to trade him? Will you be able to sign him to a long-term extension later? Who knows? So to me, it's not necessarily realistic to sign those two, but we can dream. You can't say never. Never say never. Because a couple years ago, if you would have told me Niners were going to trade 3 picks to go and get the number 3 pick, I would have thought you're crazy. So, offseason is cooking. My man 49ers Media says, do you think Deebo gets released or traded? I mean, based off today's reports, the 49ers are getting some interest on Deebo Samuel. I think he might get traded. I honestly do. I feel like they're going to try to push a trade, give an opportunity to go find a team and, maybe get some draft value out of him, a 5th-round pick. And they're going to try to push it during the combine. They're going to go hit it. And I think that's why Kyle's there at the combine most likely next week. He's going to see, fish around and see what they can maybe get in terms of an offer for Deebo Samuel. They'll knock around the doors. But ultimately, I think he will get traded close to the draft. Now, if he does it, they'll have to do a post-June 1st cut, and then he can go sign with the team that may be able to pay him money. Because I think a lot of it for Deebo is he knows he's going to have to take a pay cut with the Niners. He knows they're not going to pay him a lot of money, and they're going to want to try to restructure his deal, similar to what happened to Armstead last year, right? So what could happen with Deebo is the 49ers say, okay, we're going to cut you June 1st, all that stuff. He finds a team that wanted him, during the draft, but if they couldn't figure out a value, he can go sign with them for more money. Just exactly what happened with Armstead. That could be option 2, but I do think he will ultimately get traded. So we'll see. My man, NFC West coverage. What's good, my boy? He says, I think Deebo gets traded because Juwan provides a similar value for much less price. Yeah, absolutely. Juwan Jennings is a value. I mean, this guy's a stud. He's a dog. Look what he did last year. His former 7th-round pick, right? He was on practice squad. His first year, he tore his hamstring off his bone, and nobody thought of anything of Juwan Jennings, but he's worked and worked and worked. He showed he could be the top guy. So the Niners know Deebo is expendable in terms of, getting production out of him. I mean, George Kittle yesterday said you can't really replace Deebo in terms of, what he brings to the table and the versatility. He's right. Like, you can't really get another Deebo Samuel type player. There's a lot of people that try to be. I'm not saying that Deebo is what he was, in 2021 and stuff, but it's hard to replicate what he does because it is a very physical game that he plays, his style. But you got a Juwan Jennings who's going to give you a lot. He's going to go out there and play 200% more than anybody. He'll block. He'll hit you in the mouth. He'll go catch you 10 catches. He'll go run up on 3rd down and get you a 1st down. He's a monster. And then you have Ricky Pearsall, who we all hope can take the leap. You got Jacob Cowing. You got Devontae Adams, maybe. You got rumors for that guy. You got rumors for every receiver under the sun. Garrett Wilson, who knows? Maybe the 49ers go make a run for someone. I don't know. But the 49ers definitely know that regardless of if they go get a player in free agency or the trade or whatever or draft, you got a guy in Juwan Jennings who is an absolute steal. He's a value. I mean, the guy's getting paid. He should be the $30 million wide receiver. So look up how many 10-game catches JJ had. It doesn't matter if he has a lot. He has the potential to do it, and he's a relative bargain at what they signed him, right? 2-year, $15 million extension last year. That's nothing compared to what he played like a $30 million receiver, is what I'm saying. So he didn't even get targeted that much, right? Whew. Unbelievable. In any case, my man Rob says, I miss Deebo. Last season, Tyshawn showed up. I think it all went downhill when he changed his number. Should never have changed 19-1. He lost the aura. What's the scoop with Ayuk negotiations? Yeah, so basically they just said that they were upset of how it all played out. It all, pissed them off. Basically, they're still embarrassed with how the whole Ayuk negotiations went down last season. So, what's your opinion on Jordan Mason? My opinion on Jordan Mason is he's a good running back. I think they should add him. I don't know if they're going to be able to. I know they've been talking about it. You don't want a first or second round tender because that'd be $7 to $5 million. Maybe a third round tender, that'd be $3 million. But another team might be able to go over the top and give you more, and then you get a draft pick based on whatever the value that's offered. But I like Jordan Mason. I know he, you got CMC, you got Isaac Guerrero, but you need a third running back at least because Isaac Guerrero, he's a young guy, but he's never really had to have the volume of carries, throughout his career. He's never really been a starter till last year. And when he finally did play, he got hurt. Elijah Mitchell, always hurt. Chris McCaffrey, he's got a big injury he's coming back from. You need to have some depth. I know Jordan Mason got hurt last year, but that's what happens with running backs, especially in the 49er offense. I really feel like they got to find a way to bring back Mason. If not, Kyle's going to have to cook up another undrafted masterpiece running back this year. But I do like Jordan Mason. I do hope they bring him back, but if they don't, I understand it's a business. They may not be able to pay him that much money. So we'll see. Raj, one question that keeps coming up next season halftime show. Who would you have perform it? Probably E40. It's the Bay Area. You got to go with you got to go Bay Area. I feel like that might be the vibe. E40, you bring out all the Bay Area All-Stars. Who knows? I don't know. Don't ask me. Probably E40 because it's in Levi Stadium. So in any case, we'll see. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But again, just to recap, Kyle Shanahan expected to be at the NFL Combine, which is crazy. It's crazy because Kyle Shanahan's never at the NFL Combine, which is pretty big. Tells us a lot. Teams are looking to trade for Deebo, according to Jeremy Fowler, and we'll see. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there, a lot of rumors, right? Niners are linked to Max Crosby. Niners are linked to Myles Garrett. Niners are linked to Joey Bosa. I don't think anything's going to ultimately materialize between them. So we'll see. We'll see. My man, Pfeiffer Football, he says Shanahan is washed. You crazy. Let's see. Any other questions, comments, concerns? When can we start signing free agents? The March 12th is the new league year. Let's see. MSQ says, did I cook? Niners should make a policy where they have extension deadline before training camp. Otherwise, they can't extend their players after. They definitely got to get their contract extensions done sooner rather than later because, man, when they move it out, when they don't get their extensions by training camp, like we saw what's happened in the past. Players miss the training camp, they miss practice, they're a little rusty. They're more predisposition to injury. So I do think there has to be something they do to kind of prevent them from having players hold out. But it's not just the Niners. Any team needs to put in some type of policy where, you can't like let it go out. But some players don't want to be in training camp, and I get it because they don't want to even waste their time and maybe get hurt in training camp. So I see it both ways. But yeah, I think whatever happens is Niners have to be a little bit more quicker on getting their contracts. And we've said it every single year. So any case, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk to you later here on YouTube. I'm going to stay on Instagram. We might pull Smitty in the live. We'll talk to him. But you guys have a good rest of your day on YouTube. Appreciate you. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. See y'all later. Go Niners.